Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parshat Shir on Sefer Maayan Beit Hashoeva. As I mentioned last week, this will be our last Parshat Shir on this Sefer, Maayan Beit Hashoeva, in this series of video shiurim, since we've completed a whole cycle of Torah readings. And Mirza Hashem, next week we'll start on a new Sefer, which hopefully, God willing, will continue throughout the course of the year. I hope you've appreciated and enjoyed the insights of the Maayan Beit Hashoeva of Rav Schwab into the weekly Parsha, and I know some of you have become very interested in it and even bought the Sefer and continue to learn other pieces of his as well. I think he has a lot of fascinating insights and nice, short, digestible pieces. It's a wonderful Sefer to be able to avail yourself of. I'll share a comment on the bracha ve'eschalu goy gadol ve'ehyeh bracha. The pasuk says that Avram is promised that he'll become a great nation and he will be a blessing. So Gemara in Psachim, quoted by Rashi, darshans the various parts of this bracha to correspond to the various parts of our Amida. Amar of Shimon ben Lakish, Rish Lakish says, ve'eschalu goy gadol zeu she'omrim Elokei Avraham. When the blessing is, I will make you into a great nation, that's why we say in the beginning of the Amida, Elokei Avraham. Va'avarechacha, and I'll bless you. Zeu she'omrim Elokei Yitzchak. That's the blessing of Elokei Yitzchak. Va'agadla shemecha, and I'll aggrandize your name. Zeu she'omrim Elokei Yaakov. That's the third piece. Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Why do we repeat the three? God of this, God of this, God of this. It's all reflected already here in this initial bracha to Avram Avinu that would be carried down throughout the generations and carried out through each of those generations. We reflect that back in the Amida. Yechol yuchosmin b'chulam. So we have one more piece here. Is it possible to end the bracha? Baruch atah Hashem something, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov? No, it's not possible to end with all of them. So Hashem says to Avram in the last piece of this pasuk, v'hayei bracha. Not only do we have Eschal Legoy Gadol, V'arechecha, V'agadla Shemecha, a threefold blessing reflected in each of the patriarchs, but now we have the end of the bracha, V'hayei bracha, you should be a blessing. So Gemara takes from there, V'hayei bracha, B'cha chosmin, V'ein chosmin b'chulam. That we end the bracha with you, Avraham, and not with all of them. Somehow we end Baruch Atah Hashem Magen Avraham, and not Magen Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So although we highlight the three patriarchs in the beginning of the blessing, we end with Avram alone. There's much to say about this Gemara and this Rashi, how it is that these blessings which are given to Avram are actually reflected more in Yitzchak and Yaakov, and why it is that they're completed in the first bracha of the Amida as opposed to any other place in our Tefillah. There's a lot of depth to this medrash. It seems on the surface just a cute association of 3 and 3. And then figuring out why there's a fourth, the Hayei Bracha, you should be a blessing. Why? Because Becha Chosmin, the last bracha, the last blessing of that, the last line of that blessing in the Amida is Magen Avram. Sounds very cute. There's a lot of depth to it. But there is a question that arises no matter how you interpret this medrash. And that is really, why Becha Chosmin? Why is it that we end with Avram alone and not with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? What do we highlight in the Amida by starting the blessing, recounting the association that each of the patriarchs had with God, and then end by reflecting simply on the connection that Avram had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And there's many answers to this question. I want to share with you what Rav Schwab says. He says, Avodas ha'adam Yisrael tipared lebeis rashim. There are really two prongs to the service of any person, any Jew, to Hashem. Aleph, Misoras avosav shebiyado. There's the Misorah. There's a long train of tradition. There is the long history of our people. And you may not have a direct Misorah, what you learned directly from someone in the generation above you, who learned directly from someone in the generation above you. There's been a lot of rupture in that structure. Not everybody has role models like that to look to in the previous generation, but in the grand sense of things, we all come from the same huge chain of tradition, the Mesorah, that goes all the way back to Avram Avinu. And Beis, Avodas Atzmo. The second prong of our Avodas Hashem is found not in the depth of the Mesorah which we come from, but in the new imprint that we put upon it, the actual avoda, the service that we put in to creating something of ourselves and creating a relationship with Hashem. So there's the inherited piece, and then there's the active piece. We have to recognize that on the one hand, we're not the start of the chain of holiness. We're not the start of this brand new relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is old and way predates us and will long outlive us and outlast us. Umibli haTorah hamisura biyadenu midor dor me'av leben merav l'talmid lo neida mana lavodas Hashem Elokeinu. Without that chain of Mesorah, we as Ovdei Hashem, we as people who are trying to serve God would be lost without the examples that we have and the information that we have and the models that we have and everything that's come down to us through that chain of tradition, from parent to child and from teacher to student. Lo neda ma, we would not know how or what la'avodas Hashem Elokeinu, to serve God truly. Umeidach gisa, but on the other hand, Harei l'chol echad yitzro haprati hamischadesh u'miskaber alav b'chol yom. Every person has their own inclinations that arise in them every day, new challenges that arise every day that cannot be met simply through the inherited tradition of our forefathers. As it says in Gemara Kiddushin, Nisyonos chadashim et tachbulos shonos, we face new challenges and we face new complications. Tzarich ha'adam lezor ki gibor chalatzab lilachem beyitzar hara shelo ki'ilu hu ba'atzmo. And we have to battle those challenges, and we have to face those challenges, and we have to overcome those hurdles and those obstacles and those inclinations and those desires that we have in our own personal lives, as if we're brand new, as if they arose for the first time within us. To realize that the inherited traditions cannot fully meet the challenges of today, that those inherited successes spiritually of those who came before us cannot cause us by default to be spiritual in our own right. We have to overcome those challenges. We have to put our own imprint. We have to fight our own fights, so to speak, and create our own successes. We need both. We need the Masorah we come from and our own personal input. That's why, for example, in the Haggadah, we say, when we're talking about the spiritual journey of the Jewish people, from Avraham Avinu all the way up until today, what do we say in the Haggadah? Mitchila, in the beginning, all the way back in the beginning of the chain of our heritage, Ovdei Avodah Zarah Hayu V'Oseinu. Our ancestors were idol worshippers. Ve'achshav, and now, in the present, Kirvanu Hamakom La'avodaso, and now God has brought us close to His service. What's reflected in that phrase is both parts of our Avodas Hashem, the inherited tradition of Mitchila. Way back, they were idolaters, and Avraham Avinu had to overcome that, and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Sarah, Rachel and Leah, and all the previous generations overcame those challenges. But now, in addition to that, not only were they closer to Hashem, but Achshav Kirvanu Hamakom La'avodaso. But right now, God has also brought us close because He's created a unique relationship with me, a unique contribution that I can make to that chain of the Masorah, right? Because on the surface, the Haggadah makes no sense. Lechora kasha, rekvarnis karavnu lavodaso lifnei yoser mishlosh tzalafim v'shalosh me'ot shana. Hayal lomar achar kach kervanu hamakom lavodaso. The phrase should have been mitchila of the avodah zarah hayu v'oseinu ve'achar kach kervanu hamakom lavodaso. Way back, they were idol worshippers, and then after that, God brought them close to His service. But it doesn't say, it says, way back they were idol worshippers, and now He brought us. As if for the very first time He brought us close to His avodah, to His service. That's not true. He brought us close to His service way back in the time of Avraham Avinu. So why now? Why achshav? No. Ela shepirusha she'achshav mamish b'chol yom v'yom matzah kadosh baruch hu usanu shelo yishlo banu yitzara. We have a new spiritual journey that we chart today, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us with today. God brings us close, not just then, but right now, anew, in a newly formed relationship, uniquely suited to us. So we have both pieces. V'lachein, and therefore, he says. This explains why we have the two sections of the Amidah. We have Elokei Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, reflecting that our spiritual journey, we come into the Amidah, we take 3 steps forward into the palace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, facing HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Tefillah, Amidah b'Tefillah, the most intense and intimate conversation that we have with the Ribono Shel Olam, reflecting on where we're at and what He means to us. So as we walk into it, we say, hey, wait a second. The reason we're here is twofold. Number one, because Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, we have a Masorah, we have a chain of tradition, we have a long history that brought us to this place, and we pull upon that tradition. We utilize that heritage. We thrive off of those who came before us. But when the bracha ends, it's Magen Avraham, signaling that just like in the time of Avraham, Hashem created a unique relationship with an individual who had no history, who had no past, who had no heritage, so too with each of us. Hashem creates that unique relationship with us as if we had no past. We recognize the past, okay, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, But Magen Avraham is the recognition that God also forms a relationship uniquely with every individual, as if they had no Elokei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, as if they had no past. Because that's what Avram presents, a new journey towards a Kadosh Baruch Hu with no history and no heritage. And he says, therefore, we bow twice in the beginning of the Amidah. Lachein korim b'tfilas ha'amida b'tchilas birchas avos she'omer Elokei Avram Elokei Yitzchak Elokei Yaakov. We bow at the very beginning before that phrase, Elokei Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. Lahodos la'kadosh baruch hu lahachnias atzmeinu la'avodaso yisbarach be'bechinas misoras ha'avos. We bow in recognition of our humility as we face that long tradition, that long heritage of our past. We bow in submissiveness to that heritage and to that past. But no saf lazeh, korim b'chasimas Magen Avram. But we also bow at the end of the bracha for Magen Avram. Shehiyat chila legerim. Avram, a model of who was a first amongst converts. Haya Avram ha'ivri, shekol ha'olam kula me'ever echad v'hu me'ever echad. As the Medrash points out, Avram is called Avram ha'ivri, Avram the Hebrew, Avram from the other side, as if the whole world was on one side and he was on the other. Lahoros b'chriyasenu al kabbalas avodas Hashem be'ofen prati shekol yachid v'yachid. We bow at that point to recognize our humility, our acceptance, and our submission to the notion of God forming an individual relationship, regardless of heritage, regardless of background, with every individual. V'zehu b'chachosmin. That's why, all the way back to our original question, that's why the Gemara ends, Gemara Pesachim, quoted by Rashi in our Parshat, V'heyeh bracha b'chachosmin v'lo b'kulan. That's why the Gemara says we end the bracha of the Amidah with Avram alone, and not with all of the patriarchs together. Sheyesh inyan miyuchad be'avodas kol echad miyisrael b'bchinas Avram Avinu, kilu hu maschil b'hakdusha. Because there is an aspect of every one of our individual spiritual journeys, every one of our individual relationships with Kadosh Baruch Hu, in which we're supposed to emulate just the Avram model. Not appreciate Elokei Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, the heritage, the Sorah, the chain of tradition that we come from, that led us here, but to appreciate that Hashem has a relationship with us like an Avraham. Kol yachid v'yachid, every individual, regardless of history, regardless of past, regardless of chain, regardless of inheritance, you and you alone. Our job, as we reflect every time we say the Amidah, Elokei Avram Yitzchak Yaakov and Magen Avraham, is to reflect upon the two components of our spiritual journeys, the two components of our avodas Hashem, to focus on how much we appreciate and gain from being a part of a long chain of tradition, and how we appreciate and how much we gain from forming our own unique place in that chain and our own unique relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May we all be successful at that endeavor. Shabbat Shalom.